It's now. I want to say hello to our next guest, Jack Carty. Good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, lads. How are you? How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. You had an all right weekend there, setting a record for the number of points and any individual scores against Leinster. Obviously, if you'd done that and the team had lost, it might not have been much crack, but you didn't lose. You won, and you ended Leinster's amazing unbeaten record. So, not a bad weekend's work.
Yeah, I suppose 2 years ago I probably had a similar enough performance when we came out the wrong side of it. So, um, around that 50, 60 minute mark when they kind of got their purple patch, it was a bit of PTSD for us all. I think we were kind of looking back, and I think that probably gave a bit of nerves to us. But when that try was disallowed, I think it just gave us the confidence to go out and close out the game, which was great for us. Absolutely delighted. I suppose there's been loads of Connacht teams that went up and have been so close, and then other teams who went up and have got beaten well. But yeah, we're absolutely delighted with it, and obviously Leinster, the best team in Europe, so it was great for us to prove ourselves.
It's really interesting to hear you mention the PTSD straight off the bat, because I imagine so many teams who go up against Leinster, there's just a part of the game where the sides feel like they're equal, but something happens and then the confidence slips away. And we see this in so many sports where teams come up against the Dubs, they're beaten already almost before the game starts. To win a match like that afterwards then must be all the more exciting and, I don't know, giving the whole group a confidence boost.
Yeah, look, I think you've kind of nailed it there with, I suppose, the aura that around them in terms of the amount of games that they won. Obviously they have something special going for them. They wouldn't have won that many games if they didn't. But there definitely was something like, I suppose we lost a couple of players in the week building up to it, through injury and whatnot. And it just, it's probably made it a bigger challenge for us. And I know Quinn spoke about it earlier in the week when, I suppose, there definitely was something special. You can feel it in the hotel before it, and you don't get that often. You try to replicate it, but we had something similar in the week against Racing, and we obviously fell short with it then. So it's just about that. How do you bottle that and kind of replicate it week on week? Because as you can see, when we do get it right, we're a bloody hard team to stop.
How much is that a learning experience, Jack, to try and bottle that and to build on it week on week? I guess it's the psychological bit of being a professional athlete, because I've seen you speak in the past about some struggles that you've had and phoning up Niamh Fitzpatrick to try and work on your own psychology. As a team, is that something you've worked on as a collective this season?
Yeah, I think you can probably see we're starting to bear the fruits a small bit. We Connacht's got in a sports performance coach, Jack Birthwhistle, so he's been working with us since September, and even for myself, just he kind of goes along the lines of this neutral thinking, which I think is probably very new to a lot of us. I know Russell Wilson, that's what it's his trainer that kind of started this off. So he started using that with us, and it's very much cliche in terms of moment-to-moment focus, but he's very good in terms of how we actually go about practicing that, rather than, you can kind of just speak about it and never actually doing it. There's been a few scenarios during sessions where he'll, give a line kick or he'll give a penalty, kick a goal, and we just kind of play on from that. And then I suppose the classroom sessions that we have, we can't obviously meet them indoors, so a lot of it's done over Zoom. So I think we're definitely starting to see the benefits of that.
For the uninitiated, could you just go a little bit more detail about neutral thinking there? It sounds like it's just take every single moment as its own entity and forget the external factors. Is that basically what it is?
It's basically, yeah, like what has happened, what is happening now, and what is happening next. So like the way he kind of put it, there's no point when you're 26-0 down saying we can go on, lads, and win this game, when sometimes it's not actually feasible to do that. So it's literally about, I know you probably hear about it and sick of hearing about it, of what you actually have to do next. And we actually just talked through simple scenarios during the week. Like there could be anyone he'd send out similar. He sent out 8 to me last week, and then we just kind of chat through them. He gives scenarios in terms of what is happening on the pitch, and then it's obviously just kind of keeping yourself grounded, which, we will definitely be needing to do this week. after the weekend gone, because I suppose with the way the conferences are, this week is probably a bigger game than the one just gone for us.
For sure. Is there an added interest from your perspective then, I guess, as your position being out half and thinking that, oh, this worked for Russell Wilson, and I guess there is the natural comparison between quarterbacks and out halves all the time when it comes to rugby. Did that sort of pique your interest a little bit more? Did it hit home a little bit more for you, given you are number 10?
I think, to be honest, I love that side of the sport. I get kind of slagged for having gimmicks and like looking and doing kind of weird enough things, but the way I see it, any 1%er that you can do, they all end up adding on top of each other. But yeah, definitely, I think there's been probably times where I've compounded a mistake with a mistake, and he's just made it very clear in terms of, I know what I have to do in attack and defence, whether it be keeping the ball in front of my forwards in attack, and then defensively just to finish the job. And I think it's made it very kind of easy for me in the last few weeks just to kind of really focus on that. Obviously, it's not perfect. There's been a bit up and down still, but hopefully I can continue to do that.
How do you feel you're playing at the moment, Jack, versus where you were 2 years ago and 4 years ago and 6 years ago?
Yeah, I think maybe between the Racing game and the game just gone at the weekend are probably two of my best performances, I could probably say, in terms of, you know, being really in flow with the game. Bristol and Ulster, it was a bit of a strange one in terms of the one last week. It was kind of, we played really well for 40 minutes and then went off the boil. And Bristol, then it was, I suppose, 10 minutes that really, really hurt us. But yeah, look, I'm confident in where I am at the moment. I think it's kind of, for me, it's not getting too ahead of myself. Look, if things happen in terms of Irish selection, great. But if not, look, I think we've a massive opportunity to get into a final if we win this week. And personally, from not playing in the one a couple of years ago, it definitely is on the minds of a lot of players who were within the squad but didn't play on the day. So it's definitely something that's driving us.
Just in terms of that Ireland selection, it's obviously, you know, you're an Irish rugby player playing rugby in Ireland who's played for Ireland. So it's a huge motivation, and we know it is, but at the same time, it can't be the only thing that you judge your success or failure on, because then it becomes obsessive. How do you balance those two things out, with it being something you desperately want to do, but making sure that it doesn't become all-consuming to the point where it's limiting?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I suppose, say if there was a squad name tomorrow and I wasn't to be named, I think I'd be okay with that, because I've actually played, or, you know, my performances of late have been okay, or been sufficient for myself. But it was a case where maybe my performances weren't, I'd be disappointed, not in the fact that I wasn't picked, but in the fact that I wasn't playing well. So I know if I continue to play well, that I'll get rewarded for it in that respect. But it's I'm just happy the way I'm playing. It's enjoyable playing rugby in Connacht at the moment, and I think that's the most important thing for me. So hopefully at the end of January or February, something will come along. If it doesn't, look, I'll keep playing away, and hopefully we can win something here in Connacht.
And is that maturity relatively recent or new? Is that a point of peace that you've made? If I'm playing well and I know that I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, then that's outside of my control?
I think so, yeah. Look, you can't really control how other players are playing, or kind of what you know, how selection's going to go. Obviously, in terms of the teams may play a bit differently, so they might be looking for different things in different players. But I think it was something that maybe 2 years ago, when I was playing really well and wasn't being picked, then, you know, I might have looked further afield to kind of test myself somewhere else. But yeah, it's nothing really. It's kind of out of your control. The only thing you can control is your own performance. So look forward to doing that. I was interested, just kind of going back to what you were chatting there about before, about Cork GA. I don't know if you saw with Roscommon raising the 900,000, and then just a tribute to my brother-in-law Donny Shine there, retired yesterday from county football. So just a shout out to him. He was a great servant to Roscommon.
Did you play with him for Roscommon?
Did I play with him?
Yeah.
Nah, he's much older than me. No,
Sorry.
I never got to play with him or against him. But yeah, he's a top man. He was playing with Clonagale there for kind of a couple of years after he finished up with Roscommon, but unfortunately the knees kind of give out in him. So he's two young kids that are kind of keeping him fully preoccupied now. So he'll be kept busy.
How much do you sometimes look back on your Roscommon minor career with so much fondness that you almost miss it? Like, obviously, there was never going to be enough from a GA perspective to outweigh being a professional rugby player in this country. But I guess, do you miss the GA when you kind of look at the Roscommon success that they've had over the last few years?
I'd say probably the biggest one would be I played minor a year early. If you know, so you can play 2 years. I played a year early, and I think at the end of the first year I was like, right, I'm going to fully invest my time into playing rugby. And kind of in hindsight now, I wish I'd kind of given the second year a shot, and kind of not went full in on the rugby just to give it another year, because I subsequently then didn't end up getting academy contract out of school. So it would have been something, if I could turn back the clocks, definitely it'd have been something I wish I could have done.
Why? What would the difference have been, do you think? Would it have made you a better rugby player in the long run, or would it just have been...
I just think, I don't know, maybe sometimes and it was nothing, it was probably just myself. I thought that, like, I want to be a professional rugby player. This is taken away from me, or this might be taking away from my, I suppose, focus and putting everything I need into that. But really, in hindsight, it was like, I was really enjoying playing GA at the time. We had a really strong team, and I was like, you know what I mean, when you look back, it's only another 6-7 months. I was kind of like, why didn't I just do it? And I would have got such enjoyment from it. But I suppose, look, you can kind of go full into something, which I did at the time of rugby, and then it didn't work out. But that's the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out in the end, right? It's like definitely...
100%. Yeah. No, it'd have been something. Just, you know, I remember I was like so staunch in my positioning on it, and I was like, no, I'm not playing. And I don't know why I was, but sure, look, it did, as you said, it did work out in the end. It would have been nice to do it. I still kind of get text messages from a few fellas in St. Bridget's GEA that'll play for 2 or 3 years at the end of my career, but I don't know, we'll see.
You see what the body's like. So you were also a pretty good soccer player. Did you play for Ireland under 15? Is that right?
Yeah. Not that I was I wasn't technically gifted or anything like that. I was probably just a bit taller and stronger than fellas at that age. Not that I'm like that now on a rugby pitch, but
where were you playing?
Centre back.
Right. And what was your position in GA?
Midfield, wing forward.
Right. Okay. So a range of different skills. Like centre back needs to read the game and also be physical in soccer. Midfield, you're kind of expected to run. Wing forward, you're expected to do a lot of work. And how do all of these amalgamate into being a 10 in rugby?
Don't really know. I never really I kind of get a bit of slag, because obviously I never have kind of skinny legs, and I suppose all I do when I'm on the rugby pitch is kind of in third gear, which, look, I'm happy to do. Is kind of something like a wing forward to get through a good bit of work in terms of cover and distance, but you're not going to see me hitting any high-end speeds. But yeah, look, it's probably something that's going to help my kicking game in terms of being able to kick on the outside of my foot and kind of find space in the backfield, in terms of, instead of probably looking left and right of me, I'm always looking in front of me in terms of trying to find backfield space. So I think it's definitely helped in that respect.
When you were talking about the good feeling in the hotel and the build up to the game, how much is that down to the entire atmosphere around Connacht at the moment? I was just thinking about this. We did a piece around the Galway races. I think it must have been 2 years ago at this point, and your head coach came in and sat with us for a little while beforehand, and was just one of the most relaxed and interested and interesting characters that I've met in a long time in professional sport. And it's like, this guy's got, you know, the responsibility for everybody whose job is to be involved with Connacht, from the strength and conditioning to you, the players, and all of the support staff, and then all their families as well. And Andy Friend just comes across as this very relaxed, centred person. And I kind of, you know, again, don't want to reach too much, but it feels like that's coming across in the rugby you're playing, where you have this opportunity to make mistakes in an environment where you're going to be okay if you make a mistake, so long as it's for the right reasons.
Yeah, that was, looking back on, I suppose, if you look at it purely rugby terms last week, obviously there was massive frustration and how he managed the second half. But I suppose when he took a step back and we spoke about it after, he was like, right, it's only going to be a frustration or disappointment if we don't learn from it. So, if the conditions are poor this week and we're playing into a strong breeze, we now have the, I suppose, game that we can go back to and do it. But yeah, to be honest, it's a head coach job, and the role that Friendly has, it's something that I don't think there's probably enough days or enough hours in the day. I don't know how the amount of work that he gets through is crazy. And then he obviously has, kids back in Australia, so he's trying to manage that as well. So as you said, he's very well-grounded individual who I think, he gives the best thing he does to the players that he has. He gives them confidence to, maximize their ability. And you've seen that with some of the performances young players have given, and he's given these young players a chance, and they know that if they play well, it doesn't matter if it's, Bundyaki or Kieran Marmion or myself or whoever it is that is established in that position. If they're playing well, then that the young lads are playing well, then I suppose, he kind of tells us then you need to be playing well as well, because your position won't be there for you. So he's a very honest man. If you ask him something straight out, he'll always give you the straight answer, which, is something that can be kind of hard to find in rugby circles at times. So it's definitely something that, you learn to and come to appreciate.
Jack, you mentioned there that you don't get carried away about whether or not it's going to happen for you in the green jersey of Ireland over the next little while. But has it come close to happening for you since the World Cup? Has there been conversations about you potentially getting back in over the course of 2020?
Well, yeah, look, I was up there obviously for the first 2 weeks of, or the last 2 weeks of the Six Nations in October, and then there was a change around then, and unfortunately I wasn't back. So yeah, look, I was a bit surprised by that and kind of how it ended up being. But I suppose as I kind of said before, as long as I'm happy with my performances, I'll be happy kind of wherever I end up. So yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see how the next couple of weeks go. If I continue to play well and kind of to do what I've done, I'll be very hopeful that I'll be back there again.
And you mentioned a couple of years ago that if things weren't going your way or you put in a performance that wasn't getting rewarded internationally, you might have looked further afield. Did that ever almost materialise in something concrete, in a concrete move away from Connacht?
It was something maybe 2 years ago, but I suppose it kind of came to the decision kind of came that, where did I want to spend the next 2 years, and did I actually really want to try and push on and play for Ireland? And it was kind of when that decision had to be made, it was kind of that made the decision almost in its own right, because I wanted to do that. So probably gave me a little kick on to go on and get capped. So yeah, look, it's a strange time for, I suppose, lots of players out there at the moment, with the way the contracts and everything is. But look, even everyone outside of sporting circles are experiencing some sort of similar situation. So I think we're just lucky that we're getting to play. And I think for the fact that we were able to, the amount of messages and support we got on the weekend, I think you kind of forget sometimes what a win like that means to people from around here. So it was definitely something that kind of opened up our eyes a bit more to not be just thinking it's ourselves and the actual Connacht rugby team, whereas we're representing something much bigger and greater than ourselves. And we're absolutely delighted that we were able to do that. And with the amount of people that are, I suppose, going through hard times and struggling at the moment, it was really, really good to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, look, it's really powerful to feel like you're part of something bigger, and that definitely came across at the weekend. Jack, continued success. We really hope that you do manage to continue to play at the level you're playing at, because it's really exciting to watch. Just as a neutral and a rugby fan, I can only imagine how exciting it is for the Connacht fans as well. So thanks a million for making the time for us, and best of luck with everything. Cheers.
Happy New Year. Thanks very much.
You too. That's Jack Carty there. Wishing all the best to his brother-in-law, Donny Shine, as well, of course, who announced his retirement from Gaelic football at the weekend after a fairly legendary career in the colours of Roscommon. It is 8:34 this morning. If you want to get in touch with us, feel free, 0879 180 180.